901 has indicated that she needs to speak with me about something. So we're going to bring her in first, okay? Let's bring her in, please. Good afternoon.
Hi.
The record should reflect that juror number 901 is now present in the courtroom. My staff indicated to me that you wanted to speak to me in private.
Yes.
What's on your mind?
Well, we had a little bit of a family emergency this morning, and it's all over the news, and so I figured I better tell you. It also would require me going to Denver Health, and I know you said to speak to you if we had to be anywhere that had to deal with this case. So I had a family member who was in an accident this morning at 3 a.m. and he's okay, sort of. He's alive. But I want to see him, and he's at Denver Health, so I'm asking permission to go see him.
I appreciate you bringing this up to my attention. The request is granted. So you can go and see him. Just be careful when you're there not to try to do any investigation or acquire any information in relation to your juror service on this case.
Okay.
In other words, treat it just as you would if you were not on the jury.
Okay.
And don't go out of your way to make any observations or try to acquire any information in relation to this case.
Okay, I won't.
Okay.
I'm there for one reason.
All right. Let me have you step out for just a moment, okay?
Thank you.
The record should reflect that juror number 901 has stepped out of the courtroom. Is there anything else that the people are asking me to inquire about, or any action that people are asking me to take?
No, Your Honor.
Anything from the defense in terms of any additional inquiries or any request in terms of actions that you want me to take?
No, Judge.
Okay, great. Thanks. Let's just have her go back then, and then let's bring the jury in if the parties are ready. Are we ready for the jury?
Sorry.
Great. Let's bring the jury in, please. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury is back in the courtroom. Welcome back, folks. I hope you had a good lunch. Good. At the end of the morning session, Detective Madonna was on the witness stand, and Mr. Edson was in the middle of his direct examination. And so, Detective, I remind you that you're still under oath. Mr. Edson, you may resume your direct examination.
Thank you. Detective, do you still have People's Exhibit 425 in front of you?
Yes.
We could please publish photograph 5. What is the, within People's Exhibit 525, is there metadata associated with this photograph?
Yes.
What is the created time for this photograph?
The created time is 7/5/2012, so July 5th, 2012, 8:32:15 a.m.
And again, this was a photo from the iPhone, is that correct?
Yes.
If I could have number 7, please. What is the metadata created, or capture time, I should say, for this photograph?
The capture time is July the 5th, 2012 at 4:12:36 p.m.
If we could please have number 15, please. What is the capture time associated with this photograph?
Capture time is July the 11th, 2012 at 12:28:24 a.m.
Number 17, please. What is the capture time for this image?
July the 16th, 2012, 8:26:02 p.m.
So, within a few minutes, fairly depict the same time on the microwave in that photograph?
Yes.
Number 19, please. What is the capture time for this image?
July the 16th, 2012, 8:27:03 p.m.
'25, please. What is the capture time of this image?
July the 19th, 2012, 5:17:40 p.m.
When you're saying the time being 5:17 p.m., is that local time, non-local time? How does that work with an iPhone?
I believe those are UTC,
What is UTC?
Coordinated Universal Time, and don't ask me why they did it that way, because when you spell it out, it's not the same, but it's Coordinated Universal Time, which is the same thing as Zulu Time, Greenwich Mean Time.
How does that correspond to Mountain Time or local here in Denver?
In July, you'd subtract 6 hours.
27, please. What is the capture time of this image?
Capture time is July the 19th, 2012, 6:22:20 p.m.
Number 31, please. What is the capture time for this image?
July the 19th, 2012, 6:31:13 p.m.
33, please. What is the capture time for this image?
July the 19th, 2012, 6:37:27 p.m.
35, please. Capture time of this image?
July the 19th, 2012, at 6:40:39 p.m.
Okay, you can take that down, thank you. Were you able to look at outgoing phone calls from the defendant's iPhone?
Yes.
Were you able to look at the last outgoing phone call made from that iPhone?
Yes.
Were you able to capture, based upon your examination, the date and time of that last phone call?
Yes.
What was that?
I'd have to refer to the report.
Would that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Do you still have your report in front of you?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll direct your attention to the iPhone report, page 8.
Yes.
When was the date and time of the last phone call?
That was July 20th, 2012, at 6:30:50 UTC.
How does that correlate to Denver time?
That would be roughly 12:30
In the morning?
in the afternoon. In the morning, yes.
What was that number 2? The dialed 2 number?
720-848-0000.
Were you also able to capture the duration time of that call?
It was for 18 seconds.
Were you able to also look at the various contacts in the phone?
Yes.
Was there a contact within the defendant's iPhone for a Robert Feinstein?
Yes.
Was that an email, phone? What was that? Do you recall?
I'd have to refer to it.
Would that refresh your memory to look at your report?
Yes.
Direct your attention, with the court's permission, to refresh your memory with your iPhone report.
That's fine, but when you're refreshing your memory, what that refers to is you can look at the report, put it down, then let him know if that refreshed your memory or not. If it did, then you can answer the question. You're not supposed to read from the report.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So, sir, I'll direct your attention to page 13 of your iPhone report.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so my question, I don't need you to read it aloud, but was there a contact information for a Robert Feinstein in the defendant's iPhone?
Yes.
What kind of contact info?
Referring back to the report, it would have been email address.
Was there a contact information in the defendant's iPhone for a Lynn Fenton?
Yes.
What kind of contact information?
I believe that was a email address.
Was there a phone number as well?
There was, yes.
Were you able to also look at some text messages within the defendant's iPhone?
Yes.
Were there some text messages contained in the defendant's iPhone from a contact that goes by the name of Hillary?
Yes.
Do you recall the approximate date of some of those text messages?
I believe there was a couple dates in there in April of 2012.
When you capture a text message exchange, do you capture both the outgoing and incoming messages?
Yes.
And did that occur in this case?
Yes.
Were you able to recover any browser web history from the defendant's iPhone?
Yes.
Was there any browser web history on the defendant's iPhone that was within the parameters of the initial request from Detective Apple related to this case?
Yes, I believe so.
What was some of the browser history, if you recall?
Just right off the top of my head, law enforcement targets, the bomb, things like that.
Okay. Was there any browser history about chemicals such as napalm, gunpowder, things like that?
Yes.
Was there any sort of web browser history on the defendant's iPhone related to weapons, such as guns?
Yes.
What about weaponry such as ammunition?
Yes, I believe so.
Was there any browser history on the defendant's iPhone related to the New York Times?
I don't recall. I'd have to look at my report.
Would it refresh your memory to do so?
Yes.
With the court's permission, I would direct your attention to page 70 of the iPhone report.
7-0?
70, yes. And again, as the court stated, just refresh your memory and flip it back over when you're done, please. Direct your attention to lines 78 and 79.
Yes, there was.
Okay, what was it?
Something about sending an article to the New York Times.
Do you happen to recall, and again, if you need to refresh your memory, tell me, but do you recall the date of that web search?
I'd have to refer to the report. That would be July the 7th, 2012.
Your Honor, may I approach to retrieve an item of evidence, please?
Yes.
Thank you. I've handed you what's been previously introduced as People's Exhibit 708. Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
This is an iPod?
Did you conduct an examination, a forensic examination of an iPod related to this case?
Yes, myself and Detective Liker did, yes.
Is that the iPod that you conducted the examination upon?
Yes, it is.
Did you capture any images that were within the parameters of Detective Apple's request from that iPod?
Yes.
And just so we're clear, can iPods such as People's Exhibit 708, do they have cameras? Can they take photographs?
Yes, they can.
The images that were contained in the iPod, did you place that as part of your report in this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness, please?
You may.
I've handed you what's been previously marked as People's Exhibit 426. Do you recognize those?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
These are images of materials.
Well, let me backtrack. In general, what are those items? Actually, that's a bad question. Do you recognize People's Exhibit 426?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
They're images that were taken off of the iPhone, or not iPhone, iPod.
Do those images appear to be the same images that you collected as part of your forensic examination in this case?
Yes.
Is there also metadata associated with each of those images in People's Exhibit 426?
Yes, there is.
That metadata, did you also collect that as part of your examination of the iPod?
Yes.
Move for admission of People's Exhibit 426.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-426 is admitted and may be published.
Could I have image 1, please? Sir, what is the capture time associated with this image from the iPod?
The capture time is July the 14th, 2012 at 9:02:28 p.m.
Image 3, please. What is the capture time associated with this image?
July the 14th, 2012 at 9:02:40 p.m.
Image 5, please. What is the capture time for this image, please?
July the 14th, 2012 at 9:03:11 p.m.
Image 7. What is the capture time of this image?
July the 14th, 2012 at 9:03:31 p.m.
Thank you. Let me take that down. Were you able to successfully complete a digital forensic examination of the NZ XTE CyberPower PC,
Yes.
also referred to as a tower computer?
Yes.
Do you know what an IP address is?
Yes, I do.
What is an IP address?
IP is abbreviation for Internet Protocol Address.
What does that refer to?
Internet Protocol Address is so that computers can talk to each other, to servers and so forth on the Internet. So think of it as basically a post office address so that your computer could talk to a server or any other computer out there as long as it knows where the IP address or what the IP address is.
Were you able to establish information related to an IP address for the eCyberPower PC tower that was taken from the defendant's apartment?
Yes.
What is that IP address?
I would have to look at the report to...
Would that refresh your memory?
Yes, it would.
I'd refer you to page 3 of your report with the court's permission.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to have to read from this because I can't remember.
I can understand. Go ahead.
The IP address is 67.166.38.7.
Thank you, sir. Were you able to retrieve information from that eCyberPower PC related to the operating software?
Yes.
What was the operating software for that computer?
Windows 7 operating system.
Were you able to establish when that operating software was installed?
Where it was installed?
When?
Or when, yes. April 26th, 2012.
Would that be the first time someone would use that particular software on the computer?
Yes.
I'm going to jump around just a bit, but did you conduct a forensic examination of the Lenovo tower as well?
Yes.
Do you recall, did you receive information as to when the last time that tower was used as far as being logged into?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
I'd have to refer to the report.
Would that refresh your memory?
Yes, it would.
Okay. With the court's permission,
Yes.
refer you to page 6 of your report.
April 25th, 2012.
Okay, and now moving back to the eCyberPower PC.
Yes.
Were you able to establish information as to when the last time the eCyberPower PC was logged into?
Yes.
Okay. Do you happen to recall that?
Just to make sure, I'd have to refer back to the report.
Okay. Again, with the court's permission.
Yes.
The last shutdown time on the tower computer was July 19th,
Of what year?
2012. Sorry.
Were you able to access or otherwise look at the system's operating clock within the tower PC?
Yes.
Did that appear to be accurate as far as date and time?
Yes, it was.
When you examined the eCyberPower PC, and again, is that the computer that I showed you the photographs of earlier?
Yes.
That tower PC, was there any information related to that tower PC being synced to any sort of products?
Yes.
Describe for the jury, please.
It had been synced to a James's iPhone and James's iPod.
What does that mean exactly?
James, usually you give your iPhone and your iPod a name. So
What does it mean? What does it mean to be synced with between the phone and the computer?
To be synced is basically, there's two different ways to sync information to between an iPod, an iPhone, and a computer. One of those, the traditional ways, is by plugging it into the computer and backing it up to that computer at the time. You can also do it wirelessly at the same time, and you can also back up information through iCloud.
Were you able to discern which of those types of backup syncs were used?
I believe both of them were used.
Were you able to recover any images from the eCyberPower PC tower?
Yes.
Did you copy those images and place them as part of your overall report in this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness, please?
Yes.
I've handed you what's been previously marked as People's Exhibit 428. Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
These are images that were retrieved from the computer.
Do those images fairly and accurately depict the images that you copied as part of your forensic examination of the eCyberPower PC from the defendant's apartment?
Yes.
Move for admission of 428.
Is there any objection to P-TR-428?
No objection.
Without objection, it is admitted and it may be published.
Did you get a chance to look through those photographs?
Yes.
Do a majority of them, are they the same photographs that were also part of the iPhone?
They appear to be the same, yes.
Okay. When you conducted your examination of the eCyberPower PC, did you also retrieve any sort of browser history?
Yes.
Did you do so via bookmarks?
Yes.
What are bookmarks in talking about computer? What are bookmarks?
Okay, bookmarks, so when we're using our computer forensic software, we see an image, a document, or a file of note that relates to the case. which is what's called a bookmark. You just check it, and then you give it a bookmark name and assigns it to that category. And then when we do our findings DVD, it takes all those bookmarks and puts them in under that category.
Did you do that in this case?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the term called artifacts and related to forensic examinations of computers?
Yes.
What are artifacts?
Artifacts could be files, could be documents. It's anything that you're referring to. So if I find some artifacts related to the case, I could be referring to any of those.
Is that the same or different than bookmarks?
Pretty much the same.
Okay.
Bookmarks is something that you actually have to tell the software to remember.
Were you able to locate any sort of bookmarks or internet web pages, browser history, that were within the parameters of Detective Apple's request when you searched or when you conducted the examination of the eCyberPower PC?
Yes.
Are you familiar with Firefox?
Yes.
What is Firefox?
Firefox is a browser for your computer, kind of like Internet Explorer or Google Chrome.
Were you able to locate any browser history within Firefox that was within the parameters of Detective Apple's request?
Yes.
Did you bookmark those browser histories?
Yes.
Do you know what the term URL stands for?
Yes.
What is URL?
It's Universal Resource Locator, which is basically so that if you want to pull down information from a website, if you put the URL into your address part of your browser, it will take you to that server to where the location, where that file is located on that server.
Did you yourself, as part of your examination, knowing that you worked with Detective Leiker, did you yourself observe the Firefox bookmarks that were placed in your FTZ report?
Yes.
Did you also, as part of your examination, create any sort of document that listed the URL associated with those particular images?
Yes. And if I may correct you on that,
Please.
the program that we were using to record those Firefox bookmarks and so forth was actually Internet Evidence Finder. That does, well, you can't bookmark in it, but traditionally what we'll do is export everything out of there rather than just individual items.
The URL information and the related to those bookmarks, all that information, was that contained in your overall report as far as the forensic examination goes?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness, please?
You may.
For the record, Judge, I'm approaching with 423A and 423B.
Okay.
For the record, I have shown this to counsel. Do you recognize People's Exhibit 423A and 423B?
Yes, I do.
Let's start with 423A. In general, what is that exhibit?
423A are what we'd refer to as screenshots of web pages.
Now, do you specifically recall observing those screenshots when you were working on this case?
Yes.
Do you specifically recall logging that information as far as URL related to it for those screenshots?
Yes.
What is 423B?
423B is a portion of Firefox bookmarks.
Do those Firefox bookmarks associate with the screenshots that make up 423A?
Yes, they do.
Move for admission of 423A and 423B.
Is there any objection?
There is, Your Honor. May we approach?
Yes. Can I see that?
Yes, sir.
right, the objection is overruled, and so exhibits P-TR-423A and P-TR-423B are admitted and may be published.
When did you conduct your forensic examination on the eCyberPower PC?
I don't recall the exact date. I would have to refer to my notes.
Would that refresh your memory?
Yes.
With the court's permission, Judge?
Yes.
And I'm going to have to drill down into my written notes to be able to tell you that.
Well, let me just ask this question. You received the eCyberPower PC on what date? Do you recall?
It would have been the evening of the 21st. So it would have been imaged starting that evening. And generally, a 2 terabyte drive would probably go into 2 days. I'm guessing, and this is just a guess, August 23rd.
When you're looking at the URLs that are part of the exhibits that were just introduced into evidence, are you using those URLs to pull up the internet images that are contained within the other half of that exhibit?
The forensic tool that we use for this lists these URLs, okay? When we did the examination, we actually looked at those URLs because the forensic tool, we copy that file off of there, and we could place it on a computer that has internet access, and it'll go directly to that site.
Okay. So what I'd like you to explain for the jury, please, is when you conduct that forensic examination, you get that URL and you take a look at that screenshot, can you say that that's the same image that the user was looking at when they were using that computer?
I can't say 100% no.
Why is that?
Because it would have changed, and let's say we did the examination on the 23rd and we looked at it, you got 2 days difference. Could the website have changed? Yes. Do we know that? No.
Could it also have stayed the same?
Yes.
Did you also recover some information related to a Firefox session store artifacts,
Yes.
specifically for the eCyberPower PC?
Yes.
Did you, similarly to the Firefox bookmarks, did you create a document that associated the URLs?
Yes.
Did you also, you yourself, view the screenshot images associated with the URLs?
I don't recall on the session artifacts, no.
At some point through the entirety of the investigation, were you able to review the screenshots associated with the session store artifacts?
Yes.
Did you also have an opportunity to view the URL associated with those Firefox session store artifacts?
Yes.
Okay. The images that were collected from the Firefox session store artifacts, were they copied an image as part of your forensic examination of the eCyberPower PC?
They were there, yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness, please?
You may.
This is 424A and 424B, Your Honor.
All right.
I've handed you what's been previously marked as People's Exhibit 424A and 424B. Do you recognize those documents?
Yes, I do.
What are they?
I actually got 2 copies of B, so.
Your Honor, may I approach again?
Yes.
424B is the session artifacts for Firefox. The complete title is Firefox Session Store Artifacts. And 424A is those associated web pages, screenshots.
And those screenshots associate with the URLs that are part of 424B, is that correct?
Yes.
And Exhibit 424A and 424B, are those exhibits that were part of your overall forensic examination and investigation for the e-CyberPower PC that was taken from the defendant's apartment?
Yes.
I would move for admission of 424A and 424B, Your Honor.
Any objection, Ms. Spengler?
Objection to 424B, Your Honor, under 401, 402, 403, the same argument related to the earlier exhibit.
All right, can I see that, please? I think you meant to object to 424A. All right, would counsel please approach? All right, the objection is overruled, and so P-TR-424A and P-TR-424B are both admitted. P-TR-424B is admitted without objection, as was P-TR-423B, but the objection as to P-TR-424A is overruled, just as the objection to P-TR-423A was overruled. Here you go, sir. All right, Mr. Edson, you may proceed.
Thank you. Detective Madonna, from time to time, do you also field follow-up requests, either from the original case agent or someone else associated with the case?
Yes.
In this particular case, did you receive a request to follow up specifically related to music on the Lenovo tower? I'm sorry, the eCyberPower PC?
Yes.
Did you go back and do another forensic examination, or was this just based on the same information you'd already received?
This is based on the same information, the same original images.
Was there any sort of music on the eCyberPower PC on or around July 19th, 20th of 2012?
There was a file on the desktop of the computer, yes.
Okay. Explain that to the jury, please.
One of the things that we can do with our our forensic images is we can take those images and recreate them on our computers, and we can look at the desktop like someone sitting at a computer would be looking at their own desktop. So on this desktop was this file, and I don't recall the exact name of it, 25 minutes something, that was on there. And that's the one you're referring to, yes.
Were you able to determine the length of that particular piece of music?
Yes, I did.
And how long was that?
I'd have to refer to my report.
Would that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Direct your attention to your supplemental report, page 2 of 13. For counsel, it's 9142-1.
I'm not seeing that supplemental report in here.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness, please?
Yes?
Again, 91-421 for counsel. Or direct your attention to page 2 of 13, maybe even 3 of 13 of your report.
I don't see the exact time in this one, so.
Let me ask you this. Were you able to determine when that block of music was created?
Yes, I did. And I'm looking for my summary. But
Well, let me just ask this question. Go ahead, you can go ahead and flip that back over. What do you recall about the music that you found on the desktop?
well, I could give you the exact time because I measured it, but at the very beginning of the music, there was 25 minutes of silence built into that. And then 30, 35, 40 minutes, somewhere in there. I'm not sure without looking at my reports.
Okay. And you
the
said
rest
you
of the
could
file.
tell me, I'm sorry, you said you could tell me the exact time, is that what you said?
Yes.
What is that?
The exact time that was on there?
Yeah.
May I refer to my own reports?
Please.
Or my copies of the reports, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay, the file that we're referring to is 25-minute Music Mania Madness. It's a Windows Media file. The last accessed date and time on that was July the 19th, 2012 at 10:34, and that's local machine time.
Okay. Judge, can I have one moment, please?
Yes.
Judge, I have nothing further. I'm just going to retrieve my report if I could.
Okay.
Okay, can I see the exact time now?
Do you have any cross-examination?
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Detective, I want to start with the web history that you mentioned on direct examination that was taken or observed on the iPhone.
Yes.
Okay. The web history that you mentioned, the guns, the napalm, the ammo, all of that web history related to activity in July of 2012, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And the music file you were just talking about on the desktop of that cyber tower that we saw the picture of, that music file was created, accessed, modified, all on July 19th of 2012. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the images that you, the images that are contained within People's, I think it's 424A and 423A, of some of the web history or web activity that you recovered from your forensic examination of that cyber tower. When did you actually plug in those URL or those website addresses in order to pull up those images?
We looked at those, I don't know if it was the same day or the next day on the exam.
Okay, and it looked like if there was something in your report that you looked at, you'd know for sure. Am I right about that?
I believe he was asking me the exact date that we started the exam on the tower computer, and that's in the written portion of the notes.
Okay, but in terms of plugging in those website addresses and taking those images, that would be within, I'm sorry, can you just say that again? Was that?
It would have been within the day or the next day.
Okay, okay. And does an iPhone have an IP address?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the IP address for the phone that you analyzed?
I would have to refer to the report.
Could you do that to refresh your memory, if that's all right with the court?
Yes, of course.
Do you have a copy of it, or am I allowed to use my own?
I think you're allowed to use your own. I do have a copy, whatever you'd
You can
prefer.
use your own.
Is that helping with the...
I'm not seeing it in here. What I am seeing is the MAC address, which
Okay.
is, I don't know if you know what a MAC address is, mobile access code, which is a specific identifier for that particular unit.
Okay, all right. I wanted to talk to you just briefly about the tower, the one that's associated with the images in 423A and 424A. That cyber power tower, you said that the operating system was installed April 26 of 2012?
Yes.
Okay. And is it your understanding that that computer was actually purchased at the end of April of 2012?
I don't recall when it was purchased, no.
Okay. And then I wanted to talk to you about the most recent request that you received, work request that you received in this case, and that would involve, search for some specific terms. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when I say specific terms and I say search, I mean taking a look at the computers that were seized from Mr. Holmes' apartment and looking at them specifically, or looking at the data specifically for search terms. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And those search terms that you were asked to run against or through the computers included a search for Columbine,
Yes.
Dylan with Klebold,
Yes.
Eric with Harris,
Yes.
Napalm.
Let me look at my list.
Did that refresh your memory?
Yes. That is correct.
Mass killings,
Yes.
mass murder,
Yes.
mass shootings,
Yes.
Norway,
Yes.
Oslo,
Yes.
Anders,
Yes.
and Bering.
Yes.
And you ran your analysis through all of those computers, and the evidence did not show that those searches were made on any of those computers, correct?
Well, let's make sure that we understand what search terms are. Search terms, when I'm looking for something on a computer, we call them text string searches. So we're looking for like say the one word mass, and generally within one word of murder. So that's what I'm looking for. It wouldn't be what someone else was typing in. Okay, those are two different types of search terms.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure that's clear.
Okay, but within your search and your specific analysis for those terms, there's no evidence that those terms showed up together related to this investigation on any of Mr. Holmes' computer.
There was a couple of them that produced hits, but they weren't related to the case.
And when we say that they weren't related to the case, what you mean is like a word like Columbine may have shown up in an article, but that wasn't necessarily related to the investigation of this case. Is that right?
Correct.
And that was something that you, with your experience as a forensic examiner, looked carefully and analyzed this data carefully for all of those search terms.
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, you didn't just do that visually, you did that with two separate programs. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Both the forensic the FTK as well as the
Forensic
X-rays.
Toolkit, or FTK, and then also X-Ways.
If I may have a moment.
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Edson, do you have any redirect?
No, thank you.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. May this witness be released from his subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there any objection?
Your Honor, we would ask that you remain.
Okay, you may be called again, so you're still subject to the defense's subpoena. Okay, good. Thank you. All right, call your next witness, please.
People call Dr. Michael Doberson.
Let's do that.
afternoon, doctor. Good afternoon. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name for the record and spell your first and last names?
Yes, my name is Michael J. Doberson, and the last name is spelled D-O-B-E-R-S-E-N.
And Michael has the regular spelling.
M-I-C-H-A-E-L.
Thank you. Ms. Pearson, you may proceed.
And, Your Honor, with this witness, we will have graphic images pursuant to Order D98B to be displayed in conformance with your order to P118B.
Are all of the images that you're intending to display during this testimony subject to my order P118B?
Yes, Your Honor. We had included the x-rays because they are part of the autopsy, in addition to the photographs from the autopsies in our P118, and so I believe that they are all covered by the order to P118B.
Okay, thank you. We will plan on displaying them accordingly. You may proceed.
Dr. Doberson, were you the Arapahoe County coroner in 2012?
I was, yes.
Have you since retired?
I retired about a year ago.
How long were you the Arapahoe County coroner?
Approximately 21 years.
Were you involved in conducting autopsies on any of the people who died in the shooting at the Century 16 Theater?
I was, yes.
Before we get to that, would you please describe your educational background for us?
Well, I have a PhD in microbiology from the University of Miami. That was back in 1976. I subsequently went to medical school at the University of Colorado and graduated in 1989. That was followed by specialty training in anatomic and clinical pathology. I completed that at the University of Colorado affiliated hospitals. That was followed by a fellowship in forensic pathology, which I carried out at the University of Washington and at the King County Medical Examiner's Office in Seattle. And after completing that, I became board certified in anatomic, clinical, and forensic pathology. And it was about that time, 1993, that I took the position here in Arapahoe County as the coroner and medical examiner.
While you were the coroner, did you belong to professional associations that are related to pathology and forensic pathology?
Yes.
Did you publish articles relating to forensic pathology?
Yes,
Did you give lectures on forensic pathology?
I did.
When you were the coroner, what did your duties consist of?
For the most part, my duties as coroner consisted of looking into cases where there's been a sudden and unexpected death, and this is especially in situations where there's violent or suspicious circumstances. In those cases, it was my responsibility to investigate them and essentially to come to a determination as to the cause of death and the manner of death in those cases.
What does the cause and manner of death mean?
Well, the cause of death is pretty straightforward, and that's basically what injury or natural disease causes someone to die. So a gunshot wound, a heart attack, something like that. The manner of death can be a little more complicated, but it takes into consideration the circumstances under which the death occurred. It could be a natural death, it could be a homicide, an accident, suicide.
How many autopsies would you estimate that you performed during your career as coroner?
Approximately 6,000.
Have you been previously qualified in a court as an expert in forensic pathology?
Yes.
How many times would you estimate?
I would estimate about 350, maybe 400 times.
Your Honor, I would move to admit Dr. Doberson as an expert in forensic pathology.
Is there any objection?
No, sir.
All right, without objection, and pursuant to Rule 702 of the Colorado Rules of Evidence, and the decision in People v. Schreck, which is published 22 Pacific 3rd, 68, case from 2001, the court accepts Dr. Doberson as an expert witness in the field of forensic pathology. What that means, members of the jury, is that he has now been qualified as an expert, and he has been allowed by the court to render expert opinions in the field of forensic pathology. I want to remind you about the instruction that I have been giving you throughout with respect to expert witnesses, and that is that you are not bound by the testimony of a witness who testifies as an expert. The credibility of an expert's testimony is to be considered as that of any other witness. You may believe all of an expert witness's testimony, part of it or none of it. The weight that you give the testimony is entirely your decision. You may proceed.
Dr. Doberson, we've heard from Dr. Lear Call, who conducted 6 of the autopsies of the deceased from the theater. Did you conduct the autopsies of the other 6 people who died in the theater?
I did, yes.
Was there anything in common between the cause and manner of death for all 6 of those people?
The cause and manner of death were essentially the same for all 12 victims.
Now, as a forensic pathologist, do you have training in firearms and how different firearms cause different kinds of injuries?
Yes,
Is that part of the training you went through in your fellowship in forensic pathology?
it is, yes.
Do you see different kinds of injuries from a shotgun as opposed to a rifle, for instance?
Correct.
And in this case, do you also learn to determine whether or not injuries appear to be caused by close, medium, or longer range shootings?
We do, yes.
In this case, did you see any injuries that were consistent with being close or medium range injuries?
No,
And does that mean that they were longer range injuries?
correct.
What does that mean in terms of the distance that we're talking about?
Well, generally, it means that the distance from the victim to the gun is greater than 2 to 3 feet. That's really all we can tell.
As part of the autopsy process, did you take x-rays of the victims?
They were taken under my direction, yes.
What's the purpose of taking x-rays?
Well, especially in a case like this where we needed to recover bullet fragments and other foreign material, the X-ray helps to localize that material so we could recover it.
We'll discuss the autopsies in the order that you did them. Was the first autopsy that of Jessica Gowie?
Yes, it was.
And do you recall when that was done?
That was on July 20th at about 8:45 in the morning.
I'm going to hand you what have been marked as People's Exhibits 2518, 2643, 2644, 2645, 2646, 2647, 2648, 3035, 3036, 3037, and 3088. If I may approach the witness, Your Honor.
You may.
Do you recognize all of those as being photographs of x-rays and photographs of Ms. Gowie from the autopsy?
I do.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 2518, 2643 through 2648, 3035 through 3037, and 3088.
So it's 3035 through 3038, correct?
3037 and then 3088.
Oh, it's 3088. Okay, I'm sorry.
I believe that's correct. Your Honor, Dr. Doberson, would you look at the very last photo in that and make sure it's 3088?
It is, well, it's 3038.
Oh, it is 3038. Okay, my mistake.
All right. Is there any objection?
No additional objection?
Okay. To the extent that these are subject to my order D98, amended D98B, the objection, or I stand by my rulings, and so they are admissible pursuant to that order. To the extent that these are not subject to that order, I infer that there is no objection and they're admitted without objection. So that's P-TR-2518, 2643 through 2648, and 3035 through 3038.
Was Miss Gowie's body x-rayed?
It was, yes.
If we could have up 2518, please, first. And there should be a mouse that works as a pointer on your screen. Does.
It sort of works.
It's a little
Okay.
little fast, but it's hard, a little difficult to use. What are we looking at in this photograph?
Well, these were, again, x-rays that were taken prior to the autopsy being carried out, and obviously you can see x-rays of the head, the chest, the abdomen, as well as the lower extremities.
Could I have 2643, please? What do you observe in this photograph?
This is an x-ray, a lateral x-ray of the head. And the most significant finding here, I think, is a large defect in the skull. And it's associated with a lot of radio-dense particles, or those are actually bullet fragments.
Are you, could you point that out? Is that on the forehead?
That,
If the mouse...
it's not moving very well, but yes, the defect is this darker region. It really corresponds to parts of the skull that are missing. And the very light particles here that I'm pointing to are projectile fragments.
2644, please. Can you tell us what you observe here?
This is a radiograph of the chest, and you could see up in on the left shoulder, and by left it's reversed. It's as if the person was facing you. So where the pointer is, you can see two bullet fragments in the left shoulder.
2645, please. Can you explain anything that we observe in this x-ray?
This is an abdominal x-ray, and what you can see down in the lower abdomen near the bottom of the picture are 3 bullet fragments, and this approximates where 3 gunshot-type wounds were sustained in that area.
2646.
This is an x-ray of the the lower extremities, and where I have the pointer, you can see several bullet fragments. Again, these are very light, irregularly shaped objects.
2647.
And this is an x-ray of both lower extremities. A little further down, you could see both knees in the x-ray. And where I'm putting the pointer are a number of other smaller bullet fragments, and you can also appreciate some of the tissue damage by the darker area of the x-ray, just adjacent to that pointer.
2648, please.
And this is an x-ray of the lower part of the lower extremities, and I don't believe we're seeing any fragments here.
Thank you. You can take that down. After her body was x-rayed, what was the next stage of the autopsy?
Well, the next stage would have been to do the external examination. As you probably have covered already, an autopsy consists of the external examination and the internal examination, and they complement one another with respect to describing injuries.
What injuries did you observe on the external examination?
Well, in all, Jessica Gowie sustained 6 gunshot wounds. The most severe was the gunshot wound to the head, and that's to the left side of the head. The entrance wound was kind of in the left periorbital or around the eye region. She also had 3 gunshot wounds, as I mentioned before, to the abdomen, and there were also gunshot wounds to the left shoulder as well as the right leg, which we saw in the x-rays.
Now, were photographs taken of her during the autopsy and prior to the internal portion of the autopsy?
Yes.
Could I have 3035, please? And is this a photograph of her head showing that massive injury?
Yes. I'm so sorry for this.
Could I have 3036, please?
This you can see the right lower extremity. You could see the effects of the gunshot wound to the right lower extremity.
3037, please. Oh, I'm sorry. And were there additional wounds that you saw on the left leg as well?
There were, but they were very superficial.
Okay.
They're mainly bullet fragments that were found.
3037, please.
And these were wounds that are on the left arm. There were also some over the left side of the torso. And these are simply shrapnel-type wounds. Apparently, one of the projectiles went through an object, probably a seat, in the theater. It fragmented and impacted these parts of her body. There's very little injury to this. It's very superficial.
You can take that down. After the external exam, did you do an internal exam as well?
I did.
And if I could have 3038, please. Within this, do you see one of the projectiles?
Yes, and this is during the autopsy. Again, the purpose of this was to recover the fragments, but I'm moving the pointer to a conical metallic object, which was part of one of the projectiles, and this was recovered
Is this?
at the time of autopsy. This is her left shoulder.
Thank you. You could take that down. What else did you discover or observe during the internal exam?
Well, except for the fact that she was a healthy young woman, it really pointed out that her death was due to that very severe gunshot wound to her head. That was the cause of death.
Did you find other projectiles in her body?
Yes, we did.
Where were they located?
There were 3 located in the abdomen, and as you could see, there was one located in the left shoulder, and I believe we also recovered some fragments from that injury to her right leg.
Were you able to determine whether her injuries appeared to have been caused by a rifle, a shotgun, or a handgun bullet?
They're very characteristic of a rifle.
Can you describe the path for us that the bullets took through her body, and would the mannequin assist you in describing that?
Yes.
If you could step down, please. And there's a handheld microphone there.
Is that okay? Again, just to reiterate, the most severe wound was to the left side of the head, and the entrance wound was approximately here in that left region around the eye. The bullet path was pretty much front to back. The a bullet fragment was also recovered from the left shoulder, if you recall. It just went in to, roughly left to right. 3 bullet fragments were found here in the abdomen. They were recovered. again, left to right. And then the injury on her right leg, a few fragments were recovered. It's very difficult to determine just what the direction was there. It was a very devastating wound. Hard to tell which direction, but those are essentially the injuries that we saw.
Your Honor, can we approach before we go on?
Yeah, go ahead. All right, Ms. Pearson, you may proceed.
Dr. Doberson, what was the cause and manner of death for Jessica Gowie?
The cause of death was severe injury to the head due to a gunshot wound, and the manner of death is homicide.
Your Honor, this would be a good time for a break.
Okay. All right, members of the jury, it's 3:15. Let's go ahead and take our afternoon break. Please remember that all of the advisements I have been giving you throughout the trial apply during the break, and so please make sure you adhere to all of them. Let's take 20 minutes. I'll see you back here in 20. Thank you. Please be seated, everyone. Dr. Doberson, you may go on break. Thank you. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom, so we're now outside the presence of the jury. I just wanted to follow up to the, I think it was the last bench conference that we had while Detective Madonna was testifying. I said at the very end of that bench conference that the time frame that we're working with or that we're looking at didn't concern me. And what I meant by that is that it's my understanding that the computer in question was purchased, I believe, in April, or was started being used in April, and the exam by Detective Madonna was done in August. So we're talking about a few months or some months only. We're not talking about a difference of 5 years or 10 years, where I would be more concerned about a website undergoing substantial changes. And so that's what I meant with that last sentence or statement that I said. I wanted to clarify that. All right. Is there anything else on behalf of the people at this time before we take a break, Ms. Pearson?
No.
Is there anything else on behalf of the defense, Ms. Brady?
No, sir.
All right. I'll see you in 20. Thank you. The court will be in recess.